Last Sunday, the natural black swan was wandering around at the Beijing Tiananmen Square for about 2 hours. It was attracting a lot of attention. Coincidentally, recently the Chinese President Xi Jinping on multiple occasions has been saying that the government needs to be highly vigilant for any black swan event. Now, the black swan has shown up at the doorstep of the China Forbidden City. Does it mean something, or if it was just an accident? Master Wu Gui from the Kung Fu Panda once said, "There is no accident, truly. Nothing happens accidentally." So would the appearance of this black swan in Tiananmen Square signifies what's about to happen in China? While we cannot predict a black swan event in China, I can say that a great rhino event seems to be inevitable. I'm talking about the possible collapse of the giant Chinese company, the Evergrande Group. Welcome to Beyond the News. I'm Faye. Let's first explain the terms that are relevant to the topic here today. A black swan event is a metaphor to describe an unexpected event which had a huge impact in society. 911 would be such an example. No one expected this from happening, and after that incident, airports and airlines started taking extra security measures worldwide. And the Grey Rhino event is very different compared to the Black Swan event. It is describing an event that is highly likely to happen, but was somehow ignored by people, and would have a huge impact on society too. Such an example would be the financial crisis in 2008. Everyone knew that the US housing bubble was growing too fast, but no one knew when it would burst. So people acted as business as usual until the bubble busted, which caused the worldwide financial crisis. Let's now come back to the focus of today's program, China's Evergrande Group. Evergrande is the second largest real estate developer in China, with real estate projects across its 200 cities. Apart from real estate, Evergrande is also involved in sports, car, entertainment, and various other industries. Back in June this year, a photo of Evergrande Group's founder Xu Jiaying attending Communist Party's 100-year celebrations event in Beijing. Only a very few Chinese heavyweight CEOs had been invited to the government's most important event. It would mean that things were smooth and well for this Evergrande Group, right? But a day after that, the company's credit was downgraded for the second time due to its huge unpaid debts. According to Bloomberg, Evergrande's total debt is now a whopping 2 trillion yuan, that is $300 billion, which is bigger than Finland's annual GDP. According to S&P, more than 240 billion yuan debt will be due in 12 months. With Evergrande's serious debt problem last Thursday, the China Chengxi International Credit Rating Co. downgraded Evergrande and its onshore bonds from AAA to AA, and placed the company and its bonds on a watch list for further downgrades. After that, Evergrande's bond price dropped more than 25% on Monday and caused China's stock exchange to automatically halt its trade. We can see that Evergrande is in a deep hole right now, and many people are saying that the company is on the brink of a collapse. So how would this impact China and the world? Last year, a call for help report from Evergrande sent a shockwave around the business in China, even though the company came out and said that the report was fake. But the facts stated in the report were real. In the report, Evergrande was asking the Chinese government to restructure its debts, otherwise it would have huge ramifications on China's economy. Some of them were: 1. Part of Evergrande's debts are from 171 financial institutes in China. If the company went into default, it would set off a chain reaction among banks, trust funds, and many other financial institutions, and lead to a systematic financial risk. Number 2, 8,000 medium to small-sized companies are connected to Evergrande. Some of these companies would risk bankruptcy if Evergrande went down. And the third, Evergrande currently has about 800 active real estate projects, employing 3 million people and building homes for 2 million property owners. If Evergrande collapsed, it would have a huge impact on these projects. In another word, the Evergrande is too big to fall for China. So what would the Chinese government do about this? Obviously, it would try to make sure that the company won't fall. A few weeks ago, China's banking and insurance regulators had a meeting with Evergrande's executives and told them to implement the government's strategy for stable and healthy development of the real estate market and to actively resolve their own debt risk. Right now, Evergrande is selling assets as quickly as possible and selling a lot of its apartments at discounts. Whatever the future holds for Evergrande, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Evergrande Group took only 20 years to become world top 500 companies. If we have a look at this rise and fall, we can see it is closely linked to the Chinese government's policy. It's a really interesting story and we will talk about in our future program. So please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. What is happening to Evergrande is actually just a reflection of the real estate market in China. That is the real problem of China's housing bubble. Just to give you a small window to see how big the issue is, in June this year, a team of economists in China did an analysis to compare the median housing price to median family income ratio for 20 major cities in the world. Obviously, the higher the ratio, the less affordable the city is. Now, according to their result, the top 5 cities were all from China, with Shenzhen topping the chart. A family would have to work 58 years non-stopping to buy a property. Compare that with 14 years in Tokyo and 10 years in Sydney. From that, we can see how bad the Chinese housing bubble is. And the real situation in China also did not lie. There are so many newly built empty buildings. They call it the ghost complex in China. That is, just looks really freaky. The sum of this empty housing building was said to be able to host more than 3 billion people. And the reason is not very complex to explain. In China, selling land is the main source of income for city governments in China. It no doubt breeds corruption among government officials. So to make income, regardless if the land is suitable for residential development or not, or if they have to force take the land from private owners or not, when there is a demand for the land, the officials will find a way to put a stamp on that specific land, making it suitable for development, and then sell it to the highest bidder or who has got the best connections. Then for ordinary Chinese folks, owning a property is always a lifelong dream that everyone is chasing, regardless of the rich and the poor. That makes the demand always there. But the problem is, when the property price being kept pushing up higher and higher due to the city officials asking prices higher and higher, now that the developer has already given a big amount of payment to the city officials before he can obtain the development rights to the land. So the new housing price needed to be high enough to make money on the new buildings. The officials' greed keep increasing, yet people's purchasing power isn't changing much over the years. So even an average income class family is unable to afford to buy one unit. So there's simply no new buyers buying the new housing property. But the officials are still in the good position to sell lands for more money, and the rich people in China still have extra money in their pockets, so they still can build more, and the supply of the housing have been exceeding the demand of the housing since a decade ago. But the distorted housing market still continue in pushing for more new housing properties to be developed. Hence, we are seeing a great leap forward movement in the Chinese housing market over the past decade. It is another wonder of the world, like the Great Wall of China, but this is the great empty housing buildings of China, and another odd phenomenon that can only be seen in China. This is one of the reasons why the housing bubble is so big in China, but the problem goes much deeper than this, and we will explore that in our future episode. With a bubble like this, it puts the Chinese government in an awkward position. China's housing market accounts for a quarter of China's GDP. Therefore, any tweaks in the housing market would have a huge impact on China's economy. There is something else I need to mention. The property market is Chinese people's favorite form of investment. According to a study done by China Finance, 76% of the family debt is related to mortgage, compared with 30% in the US. By the end of 2020, China's total personal mortgage debt is 34 trillion yuan. Therefore, if China's housing price dropped, it would like the 2008 global financial crisis all over again. The mortgage value is more than the property itself, which results in property being foreclosed by the bank. Bank has to sell the house to make up the loss in the mortgage. But as more and more property is being foreclosed, causing more supply in the market, which would lower the property price even more. In the end, banks are not able to make up their loss in the mortgage by selling property and resulting in the collapse of the banking industry. The Chinese government doesn't want that to happen. However, if the property price keeps going up, the reality is less and less people are able to buy the house, which would cause a huge social problem in China and the bubble would burst. Now, the Chinese government is working on a fine line in terms of how to deal with the housing bubble. Seems that they have to put out regulations to control the pricing so that it wouldn't fall. And at the same time, they cannot be putting too much regulation and tank the pricing so not to punch the bubble too fast. Personally, I don't think the Chinese government is able to avoid the inevitable. The Great Rhino event will likely happen. They would probably just to lower the risk and damage. Where do you think China's economy is going? Leave me a comment below. Alright, that's all for today. If you like today's show, please like, share and subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching Beyond the News. I'm Faye. I'll see you again very soon.